Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roach.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our premiere review of Nine Perfect Strangers Season 2. Episode 1 and 2 are now available. It has been a very, very long time since we have seen this show. But Masha, we are ready at the new retreat. I'm just not going to eat any chocolate right now, if that's okay. I'm just going to say no. I love chocolate, but I'm good.
I'm so excited for this show to be back. I have watched season 1 3 times. I absolutely loved it. There's really nothing like this show on TV. It's such a trip. And, it even coming back for a second season was surprising to me. Like, it ended so satisfying to
Yeah.
see where everyone was and where Masha was driving off in her stolen Lamborghini with
Yeah.
her daughter by her side, who's not really there, but she has, been taking a lot of drugs. And now she's able to see that her daughter is with her at this point. It felt like a complete story, but still did leave me wanting more. I mean, I really, really like this universe that they have created. So when
Yeah.
they said they were coming back for season 2, I could not wait. It was such a long wait, but man, we are back. It is a really good start to the season.
I had a lot of fun in these first two episodes. Like, I think this show is insane. Like, I'll just say that from the get-go. There's an argument. It's like, okay, did this world need a second season? I'm sure we'll be talking about that all season long. But at the same time, regardless of if it did or if it didn't, I'm just glad that it's here anyway, because it's just, I enjoy watching Nicole as Masha, this incredibly weird character. I really like the cast that they have this time around. There's like so many people who I know for a lot of other things. I am one of the only people who probably knows Annie Murphy better for Kevin Can Blank Himself, as opposed to the other show that she's on. And then Christine Baranski, The Good Wife, The Good Fight. She is up there. We talked a lot about Ann Dowd telling people off. Christine Baranski is number 2 on my list of people who can tell me off at any given moment, and I'm going to be okay with it.
This show is so good. I'm so excited that it's back and that we're going to be diving into it. And normally, I'm not a fan of them dropping more than one episode at a time, but I feel that they did the right thing here, dropping 2 at this point. This cast is really big,
Yeah.
and learning what the connections are with everybody, it was a little bit more complicated than season 1. Like season 1, yeah, there was the family and they knew each other. And,
Yeah.
there was a couple of things where there were some people that kind of knew each other, but for the most part, everyone was strangers. Here, it's almost like the game of Clue and the movie of Clue. If any of you have watched that, I've seen that an unhealthy amount of times. It's one of my favorite movies, where everybody shows up and it's supposed to be a bunch of strangers that don't know each other, but then it's kind of like you've got Miss Scarlet kind of being like, oh, you may not know me, but I know you. And it's kind of that sort of feeling of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting mysteries that are kind of floating around here. There's a lot to talk about with that. Like, there's a lot to talk about when it just comes to what Masha's endgame is now in the midst of all of this. And yeah, I'm with you. I'm glad they had these 2 episodes at once. Like, I like the first episode.
Yeah.
That alone would have been enough to keep me watching, but I loved episode 2. I think episode 2 is really outstanding, and it just gets me so much more standing on edge for like what the rest of this season is going to look like.
Yeah.
Okay, we have so much to get into here, but before we move forward, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because yeah, we are going to be here through all of Nine Perfect Strangers Season 2 with all sorts of coverage. We are glad to be able to put on our tinfoil hats, break down these characters, and we hope you guys are there with us every step of the way, and subscribing is the best way to ensure that happens.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed. It really does help us here at the channel. And if you want more of our videos, we have exclusively over on our Patreon. We are covering Criminal Minds as well as Murderbot over there, and is the only place that you can get those reviews. So thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed.
Thank you guys. We really, really appreciate that.
Okay, so Masha has become a pretty big influence now in this mushroom space. We'll call it that. And it's interesting because while she's become this big influence, she still hasn't been able to get like any sort of real approval to do any real clinical trials
Yeah.
with this. It's like she had this one big success. She's been able to, write some books. She's doing the circuit. She's getting served everywhere she goes. There's a
Yes.
million lawsuits going on. But she's really trying to push this to the next level because she's been able to figure out how to use this mushroom drink and actually focus it in with the help of Silicon Valley, where she's been able to really focus in on specific memories or things that people want to dive into in their past to be able to move past that trauma. And there's something very interesting and special about that, whether or not it's too dangerous or not is something else.
Yeah, I think this show is hitting at something that's really, really topical, which is just this idea of, I'm not saying this for me, but there are a lot of people out there that are going to be like, who cares if you have medical approval for X, Y, and Z? You're charismatic. What you're saying feels like it's good for me. I'm interested. I'm down with this. Let's go. Give me the mushroom drink. It's just that because she has sort of established herself as this guru, she has money behind her, she's charismatic and influential. It's like those are the things that are going to matter to a certain subset of the population. And she has clearly found a way to figure out, it's like, I can do this anywhere. Who cares if it's in America or this next place? Like, be prepared for me to butcher pronunciation for the first time this season. Zauberwald, which is this mysterious new locale in the Austrian Alps that can be the new setting for her retreat.
Yeah, it was very exciting and gave me vibes of A Murder at the End of the World. If you guys have seen that
Yeah.
series, so good. I was really hoping we were going to get more of that as
I
well.
know.
But this feels very much like that, where they're in this very remote place that is very difficult to get to, which is great because Masha can't get served up there. And they've invited strangers that are not really strangers. We've got some people that are families as well, like the first season, where,
Yeah.
we have a father and son, we have a mother and daughter, and we have, a couple, but we also have a couple of singles there as well, like, Sister Agnes and
Yeah.
Brian. And so it's an interesting group of people, but the thing that is different from last season is that there are connections that shouldn't necessarily be there between the guests that shouldn't know each other.
Yeah, and I there's a deliberateness in some shape or form to
Yes.
why Masha's doing exactly what she is. It might be
Yes.
something as simple as this is going to make the memories more profound. If you guys have some sort of shared connection, this would explain even further why she's so intent on waiting until everybody is there, including David, to the frustration of everybody who is at the retreat. There's a method to the madness there that I think is going to manifest itself eventually this season.
Let's talk about David,
Yeah.
because I think that, yes, there's purpose, obviously, with everybody being there,
Yeah.
but also there's financial purpose with David being
Yeah.
there. He is a billionaire, and, the hotel owner is in, financial struggles. Masha wants to get funding to be able to get more clinical trials, and who better than to do these trials on a billionaire who can then have the experience and be like, this I really believe in. I tried it. It works. I want everyone to have it. Here's $1 billion, right? But on top of that, they've clearly had some sort of romantic relationship as
Yeah.
well. It is complicated in all the most delicious ways.
I did not expect that at all at the end of episode 2. It's like, oh, David's here. Oh, you're making out now. Okay, all right. This is all fine. And then Masha's just like, okay, this is it. We are strictly professional from now on. I'm just sitting here being like, okay, sure. I'll believe that when I see it. Since when have you followed protocol on anything, Masha?
Yeah, and I mean, it was a good reveal because for him as the billionaire, yeah, his son is there, Peter, but Peter's kind of like, yeah, maybe he'll show up, maybe he won't. He's got other things going on. Then we saw David in his car being like, yeah, I'm late for this, but, the money, the deal, that's more important. I'll get to it when I get to it. It feels like the relationship he had with Masha in the past, and hopefully we'll learn more about that because that's
Yeah.
a mystery,
Yeah.
is the thing that really brought him there, where it's like, yeah, I want to do this thing with my son. Sure, I want to check out these trials, but I have a history with this woman, and, clearly there's still sparks there. And, love or not love is going to bring you to do some crazy things.
Yeah, and with that, I'll put on a tinfoil hat here because
Oh,
one of the
okay.
big questions that I have with this season in particular is just what exactly is Masha trying to do with this particular retreat? Because yeah, I understand we can sit here and be like, okay, it's about money and influence, but at the same
Part of it.
time, yeah, that's a part of it, but that's not an interesting enough reason to bring the show back for me. If it's just like, okay, we're just gonna have Masha get more money and influence. I mean, it's really sure it could also be about the destruction of Masha. Like that's also possible. But I think for her, she's clearly trying to find a way to do something. And we saw in season one how she was basically able to manifest her daughter at
Mhm.
certain points. I kind of feel like this is just a way for her to eventually figure out how to slip even further into delusion to the point where she can just have maybe her daughter around all the time, where she can feel fully real to her, where there's just a way to extend further beyond what she's already done. Maybe it's even as simple as she can just transport herself back to the past. I don't necessarily mean literally, but I just mean in a way in which she feels like she can have these experiences that she lost. Like, I still think there's got to be some sort of personal clinical reason for all of this to still be going on.
Oh, yes, for sure. I mean, we saw this flashback 10 years in the past when she, had first lost her daughter, and she's came to this same hotel and got this help with the mushroom drink, where it was like, okay, I know you're grieving, you want to see her. This is maybe kind of a way. And she just becomes obsessed with it. And I think now that she has the technology, it's still in its infancy,
Yeah.
but the technology with the mushroom drink to be able to start to try to focus in on specific memories, I think that's the motivation, where she wants to make sure that it works every time, that she
Yes.
can then go back into the past and be like, I want to go to this birthday. I want to go to this moment that we were at the beach, or this moment that I was reading to her in bed, that she can really focus in on all the good stuff instead of what's happening here, where she's lying to everybody. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not dosing. No, I don't see my daughter anymore. Sure, I'm following all the rules, and she's not.
No.
But she's seeing her daughter in a way that's still a little more frantic and not feeling as comforting as I think she wants it to be.
Yeah, and she hasn't quite figured that out. And I think there's another end game that's going to be presented over the course of this season now that she has
Mhm.
these quote unquote willing subjects who have all made it to the retreat. I mean, let's get into some of these people for a moment
Yes.
here. We have Imogen, who is this seemingly smart and scholarly woman. This is who Annie Murphy is playing, and she's there with her mother, Victoria. And by the way, why are all prestige dramas making the matriarch character have the name Victoria? I'm just waiting at this point for her to be like, Imogen, are you becoming a Buddhist on my watch?
I was gonna say, why is everyone named Imogen at this point? Like, I've seen 3 or 4 shows now in the past year and a
Yeah.
half where all of a sudden all the women are named Imogen. I've never heard that name before, and now it's everywhere.
And they're always just like some quirky ingenue like kind of character with
Yeah,
their
in
like,
their 30s.
yeah, it's all very much that archetype. Like just seeing Annie Murphy and Christine Baranski's playing Victoria together, like
Yeah.
that's delightful. But the thing that really takes it over the top is that Victoria has brought her boy toy named Mateo to this retreat. And this is a story that I don't think we've seen. It's been done before, obviously, but it's not so overly done. The idea of this older woman and this younger man who's clearly just there because of the money and whatever else, whose English is not necessarily the best, but him just being there in the way of everything, I just found incredibly entertaining.
Absolutely. And it feels very much like that's all part of the plan as well. I mean, Imogen brought this up. It was kind of like, you always bring in these men that are like basically a shield to stop you and I from
Yeah.
having any deeper conversations, having any deeper kind of relationship. There's always a man that's here that is blocking everything between us. We're going on this retreat to
Yeah.
find a way to bond together, and you bring this guy that you just met. And Masha's like, yeah, of course, let's just sign him in. He's got to be part of it, right? It's
Yeah.
got to be part of the way that these two women are able to break through.
So one thing that I'm always going to be all in on a show for is bringing in either a nun or a former nun as one of the characters.
Yes.
I don't know a lot about our sister here at the moment, Sister Agnes, but at the same time, I am incredibly curious because I'm just like, why are you here? What happened in the past? Are you telling the full truth? I just have so many questions because nuns, you're supposed to be giving away your earthly possessions. You're giving your life to God, and yet you are here surrounded by the lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Yeah, and that's why she is the character I'm the most interested in, especially when I saw her like take all the blankets and stuff and sleep on the floor.
Yeah.
She's still really struggling, I guess, with what she was in her past, what she might be in her present. She doesn't know what path she's really on. She is fascinating.
Insanely fascinating. And I feel like, based on what these first two episodes are like, each episode, at least until the finale, we're probably going to get some sort of a spotlight on each one of these people, or in the case of Imogen and her mom, maybe they both share an episode or something like that.
I'm also really curious what the work is that Agnes has done that has made her kind of famous, because I
Yeah.
mean, even Victoria's like, oh, I know who you are. Like,
Yeah.
people know who she is. And besides a few nuns out there, there's not that many that I could be like, oh, I can name, 3 nuns on my hand.
Yeah, that's just a thing where you don't perceive nuns this way. You don't perceive nuns as somebody who's out seeking fame, and maybe that's not how she came about it. Maybe
Nope.
she just, wrote something or presented something, and it's something that her word, her teachings have spread. But whatever it is, it's still led to her being here, and it's just, don't mind me. I'm just going to be judgmental of anybody who's deciding, you know what? I want to go to a retreat hosted by this woman who has a number of pending lawsuits against her. I would not go to this retreat. If I had a lot of money and it's just like, I want to get away, bring me to, I don't know, some private island in the middle of, I'll go to French Polynesia. Like, I don't know. I'll just sit on one of those like huts that's above the ocean and just watch the waves.
And then we have Brian. Oh, sweet, angry Brian, who is so upset that his luggage went missing. Of course, Masha, it's all part of the plan. But
Yeah.
him finally coming up in this elevator and seeing Agnes there, who, some of her clothes just were dirty from travel. The hotel's like, oh, well, this is what we have. Here's a uniform. Do you mind? No, I don't mind. Him just having her carry all his luggage to his room. He couldn't even be bothered to carry a bag.
Yeah.
He is something else. He's so privileged.
He's so privileged. He's so unlikable in a lot of ways, but
Yes.
he's also incredibly compelling. He
Yes.
is, after episode 2, he is the character I'm the most interested in on the show.
You were going to be anyways because of the White Lotus.
Okay, Murray Bartlett, this is a very, very big take. He might be my favorite actor right now, and that's saying a lot because
oh my God, there's Pedro.
I love Pedro.
There's Walton.
It's just, here's the
How
thing.
dare you?
Every time I've seen Murray Bartlett in something, he has blown me away. Granted, I haven't seen him in enough stuff. That's why I probably can't put him on the threshold of Walton and Pedro. It's like they're the players, if to use a basketball analogy, because it's typically all I have, they're the players who have been playing for like 5 or 8 years and have been on a bunch of all-star teams. Like Murray Bartlett, he's maybe been in the league a couple of years for me, but it's like Armand on the White Lotus, iconic. Bill and Frank, that episode of The Last of Us, one of the best episodes of TV I've seen in the past 5 years. It's just, Murray has this ability to really bring you in and see this personal aspect of, who he is, make you want to root for him, but then do these terrible things that make you be like, why would you do that? Right when I wanted to root for you. And I think this also really hit a soft spot for me, this character, for a number of different reasons. Okay, let's start with the puppet. Sometimes I feel like puppets on TV are gimmicky. I don't like them. They just feel like a crutch. I love this puppet. I don't know why. Does
Yeah.
anybody remember the kids show Bear in the Big Blue House that aired for a while? Like, okay, this bear reminds me of that bear, and that bear was adorable. I was a little bit too old when Bear in the Big Blue House came out for me to really watch it, but anytime I saw that bear, I was just like, oh my god, that's the cutest bear I've ever seen. I want to hug that bear. It's like the bear was appealing to me, but then it's also like all the subject matter that we get beyond the bear that just added to that further.
Yeah, I mean, it made sense because he was a child's performer. This was the bear that he used to help communicate.
Yeah.
It is a form of therapy that I know of that a lot of therapists will use puppets for with children to be able, if maybe they don't want to talk to the other adult in the room, maybe they want
Yeah.
to talk to the puppet. So it makes sense that on the children's show that that's what he's using. He's using this bear to have children come on and be able to open up about things. He has this huge moment on the show that basically got him canceled where he's speaking with another child that is opening up about some pretty difficult things to
Yeah.
this puppet. And you've got, the crew is like meh, 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 in the background, and he loses his mind on it. Somebody's filming it, puts it online, and I'm kind of sitting back being like, if I knew
Yeah.
the whole story and not just him flipping a table,
Yeah.
I would be on the side of Brian at that point. He shouldn't be acting out quite like
Yeah.
that. But at the same time, you've got a little kid on here who's on TV,
Yeah.
who is opening up about something pretty traumatic. And you're an adult in the back, like gossiping at craft services. Like, how rude.
That's what makes him to me so interesting in that he's clearly got an anger problem, like a really bad
Yes.
anger problem that he needs a lot of work on. And like you said earlier, like he is clearly really, really privileged, but does that mean a lot of the work that he did was bad? Like if he actually helped a lot of kids, like that in itself is inherently a good thing. Like,
Yeah, and it seems like he did. I mean, we had that whole scene with Tina who was just like, yeah, I don't know if you remember me or not,
yeah,
but I was this piano prodigy and I was brought on your show by my parents to talk about that. And you are the only person that asked me what I want to do. And I was actually able to say, I want to be an astronaut. And it is the only time that's ever happened.
yeah, and that's the tenderness that Murray brings to some of these characters sometimes, where you really get he's able to make you feel like, okay, he actually is listening, even if he is a terrible person in some other parts of his life. Like, I do believe that Brian cared about the kids that were on the
Yep.
show. I don't think it was just exclusively a job to him, but I think this story in particular also touched on something that a lot of us have probably gone through, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, which is this idea of, okay, we have somebody who is a really important part of our childhood, our young adulthood. Like I've run into this a couple of times. Like I won't give too many specifics, but there was a podcast I used to listen to, and there was a show I used to really, really love where I found out some really bad things about both the podcast host in one instance and then the star of the show on the other. And I kind of had to completely distance myself from both of them, or I don't watch them, I don't think about them anymore, because it's just like the things that these people did or were accused of are just so detestable to me. And it was heartbreaking to like lose that part of my childhood or that part of my young adulthood, and to sort of see some characters on this show struggling with that with Brian. Like that's a really interesting thing that I don't think that's been brought up all that much on TV.
Yeah, and we've seen both sides of it
Yeah.
because while Tina had a really positive experience with him and was like, "Man, you really like
Mhm.
changed me in a lot of ways that somebody listened to me." You've got on the other side Imogen who just doesn't like him, who,
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, I watched you much longer than I should have watched you for because I really looked up to you and I really related to you. And then this video comes out and ruins it
Yeah.
for me, where, how could you behave this way?" And you see both sides of it. And I think that the show did a great job with that.
Yeah, and I think they're proposing an interesting question when it comes to him in particular this season. It's that, what does a second act look like for somebody like Brian, where,
Yeah.
in life, you have to be accountable for the things that he's done. Like he has to be accountable for his fit of anger. He's lost his fame, his reputation has changed, but does that define the rest of his future? And I kind of hope that that's something the show really gets into, where redemption's not the right word, but can he find something else where he still able to help people through that. And maybe that's what he's going to get out of this experience.
Yeah, I mean, Masha started with him right away with the chocolates
Yeah.
and his, bad issues with coping with his frustrations and not being able to do it in a healthy manner. They're like yelling in the room over
Yeah.
the luggage, and him kind of at that by the end of it having this realization that he's throwing a fit over a piece of luggage. And
Yeah.
while the bear is in it, and it's very, important to him, it's sitting right there on the bed. Like
Yeah.
it's not gone anymore. And he's still behaving this way. And I think then her putting him in the leadership position, in a position of power, like he was in the show, to lead a group of people that, are all there for the same reason, to get, some help.
Yeah.
That I think that that's her way of trying to make sure that if frustrations come up, they're probably going to come up with the leader and how he's going to be able to cope with it in a more healthy manner because he's eating the chocolates.
I one of the things I've been the most curious about since watching is like, okay, why was Brian, test subject number one in a lot of this? And I think it's coming down to some of what you're saying. I think it's some of his past leadership experience. I think maybe it's just also that I don't know if Masha thinks he can be quote unquote cured easier than some of these other people, or that maybe he can be helpful to some of these other people. It's just that I like to think that somewhere in either the recesses of her mind, or she's got it written down, she's got like okay, today is Brian Day, tomorrow is going to be Imogen Day, and she's kind of got like an order of things planned out, and maybe that all works out for her, or maybe it just goes completely off the rails, which I would totally be here for.
I'm hoping that the next episode we get a little more about Wolfie, because we didn't really get to know a lot about them. We
Yeah.
got to know a little bit about Tina and that she was this piano prodigy. They go there together. They're a couple. There's a piano in the room. There's a piano downstairs. Pianos everywhere kind of thing. And it's something that Tina is really struggling with. She doesn't play anymore. And because she was a musician and Wolfie's a musician, that together they are affecting each other's careers now that Tina has stopped playing and they were playing together. Now Wolfie is stuck in a position where they're not really playing anymore either. And Wolfie's really hoping that not only just for their career to be able to continue playing, that Tina can just get past this block, because it's clearly having an intimacy block with them as well. We saw them like starting to be intimate, and then Tina's like, nope, I need to go have a shower and just sit in there and run the bath.
I hope we get something on them soon. And I feel pretty hopeful that we will, just because this is an ensemble. I think everybody's going to get their moment in the sun. I think they are inherently interesting. Like, I really like the full cast this season. If there's any one beef that I have, and it's pretty minor at this point, it's just that I'm not fully invested in whatever is going on with Peter and Imogen at this point,
Right.
where it's like, I understand that Imogen's really frustrated. She doesn't want to be in the room with her mom and with Teo.
Who does?
I fully get that. And that, though, it's a circumstance that it makes the quickness of their relationship understandable, where I'm not going to sit here and question that. It's just that I'm not fully bought in on that relationship yet. It just feels like there needs to be a twist, or there needs to be something more between the two of them. Because if this is just some straight-laced, would there be romance? I'm not really watching Nine Perfect Strangers for that. If I wanted a traditional love story, I feel like, I don't know, I can see that in about 200 different places.
Yeah, I think the thing is for me, because I'm such a fan of the first season, and the love story that came out in that was just so wholesome and so genuine. And I loved it so much that if this is where they're going with it this season, it's definitely not hitting the same way. It feels like, there's some attraction there, but it's more of like a romance out of convenience.
Yeah.
They're both there. She can't stay in the room. He's, not unhappy to have, a cute girl in his room. Like, it feels like it's a romance that's more out of convenience at this point. But my bigger problem is just, I don't know enough about Peter. It feels like most of his issue is about his dad, and his dad wasn't there.
Yeah.
So because his dad wasn't there, he's just this privileged guy who's, oh, I'm out here being a mountaineer and doing whatever with these other guys who are roughing it. And then his, Mercedes is going to pull up and take him away. I was like, oh, wow, okay.
I feel like there's probably a darker twist coming with Peter at this point. It just feels like there's got to be something more here beyond just, your dad and that you're just some good looking guy that Imogen is gonna, be with because she doesn't want to be around her mom.
I really hope so. I know, like, for me, with season one, there was the character of Ben, who was the guy who won the lotto, and they didn't really do a lot with him. And I thought that that could have had a bit of a deeper story, but it just kind of didn't.
Yeah, I want this season to be
It's a big
deep.
cast.
Yeah, I want everybody to have their moments, and I don't want the show to repeat itself from season one. And I know that's tough because it's basically the same format, but to go back to, the Victoria Ratliff White Lotus comparisons, White Lotus has done a really good job of making sure across their multiple seasons that they don't just feel like the same thing, even though they're basically a similar premise.
Absolutely. I mean, The White Lotus has found a way to make every season different, even though it's all privileged rich people
Yeah.
every single season. They have found a way to make each season feel different, feel fresh. And so far this season, they are doing the same. It is feeling different, it is feeling fresh. I don't want to see the same thing. While I really enjoyed the romance from season one and it was so wholesome and so great,
Yeah.
I don't need to see that happen again here. Like,
No.
this is fine.
So that's where we are with Nine Perfect Strangers, these first two episodes of season two. I think we're off to a really good start. We hope you guys stick around. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our other coverage this season, and you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. We're covering exclusively there Criminal Minds, Evolution, Murderbot. Thank you so much. We will see you here next time.